I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to our board meeting this Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. If you wish to speak during the hearing of citizens, please pick up a card in the back of the chamber, print your name and topic clearly, and return the card to our board assistant, Kathy Tompkins, sitting to our left. At the appropriate time, we'll call you up to speak. Now please rise for the salute of the flag under the direction of Booker High School's JROTC and their direction, Captain Jason Dudley. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right face, forward, march.
Wow, we have a lot of people in the audience this evening. Happy to see all of you here. And first, we'd like to talk with our student representative to my left, which is Tay Peterson, who is a senior at Booker High School. I just gave Tay an appreciation certificate. Thank you for being here, Tay. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done at Booker High and where you're going and what your future holds for you?
Okay. Well, hello. My name is Tay Peterson. I'm a senior at Booker High School. I'm a part of Booker's VPA musical theater program. I will be graduating and going to Pace University in New York to study musical theater with either a minor in business and/or dance.
Mrs. Zucker?
And I, for one, will miss Tay. If any of you have gone to see any of Booker High School's performances, Tay is right out front. He's been fantastic, and I've enjoyed watching him for the last several years. I will miss you, Tay. Congratulations to you.
And next, we have a number of special presentations. First, we have that this is Children's Mental Health Awareness Day, May the 9th, 2019, coming up shortly. Join the Florida Department of Education, which we call FDOE, in helping increase awareness about children with mental health needs and end the stigma around seeking help. On May the 9th, join all of us at FDOE and wear green in support of Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. Celebrate our statewide awareness campaign and tag a photo of your group wearing green or a green ribbon using one of these hashtags. Hashtag not alone, hashtag let's talk about it, and hashtag it starts here. Very, very important work. Next, we have some special presentations. The first presentation this evening is about arts recognition. Last night, several of us attended the Arts Alliance C-SPA event at the West Coast Black Theater Troupe. Angela Harvickson was there, and I'd like to ask Mrs. Harvickson to come forward to the podium with our first presentation. She is our Fine Arts Program Specialist and does a wonderful job. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good evening, Chair Goodwin, school board members, Superintendent Bowden, Mr. Hardy, and Tay. Tonight we'll be recognizing a number of our talented all-state music students. Of course, the achievements of these students have been made possible by their supportive families and their dedicated teachers. You'll hear some recognition of those individuals as well. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to share the great news about these talented students and their accomplishments with you tonight. We're here to recognize Sarasota County students who are selected to represent our district and their school music programs in an all-state music ensemble. Florida Music Education Association and its component organizations deal with elementary music, band, chorus, orchestra, and guitar in our Florida schools. They present 21 different all-state ensembles that rehearse and perform as part of the annual FMEA Professional Development Conference that's held in January. Students are selected for these ensembles from across the state through a rigorous audition process or teacher recommendation, depending on the ensemble, to perform with exemplary groups. Students perform and rehearse with their colleagues from across the state and are directed by a state or nationally recognized conductor in that musical area. The all-state experience is so impactful and valuable, and it's something that our students truly will remember for a lifetime. This year, we had 66 students from 17 schools selected to perform with 16 ensembles. 25 music educators helped their students attain this opportunity. I've provided all of you with a sheet, and many of you got them as you entered, with the names of all of the students, their schools, their ensemble, and their teachers. This evening, we have nearly half of our all-state students and their families in attendance. As we all know, it's an extremely busy time, and we appreciate all of you being here tonight. So if you're a parent, grandparent, or sibling of one of these students, we're all very aware of how much you do to support them in everything that they're doing, and we appreciate you. Everything from listening to those beginning notes on the trumpet or violin to chaperoning them at All-State. So family members of All-State students, please stand so we can recognize all that you do. Thank you and congratulations to our school-based administrators for the support they give our music programs, students, and teachers. If you're a principal or assistant principal of one of these students, please stand so we can recognize you. So thank you to Glenn Wachter, Jennifer Dolciotto, Jacob Resco, Matt Gruhl, Ray Wilson, and Lori Breslin for being here tonight. We appreciate it. And of course, students can only be eligible for All-State based on their teacher's membership in FMEA and its component organizations. In most cases, these students are supported by their teachers in the All-State selection process with help on theory or sight reading or coaching on the performance of excerpts. Their teachers arrange for hotel rooms and many other logistics. I know our students and our families know the value of these teachers, but let's take a moment to recognize them. I'm only going to recognize the ones that are here this evening, so please hold your applause until I've named all of them that are present. I know you love them, but just hang on with that applause. So teachers, please stand and remain standing as I read your names. From Ashton Elementary, Joan Tracy, music. Brooks, good modeling. At Brookside Middle, Marina Pope, band. At Imagine School at Northport, Phoebe Walden, band and chorus. At Laurel Nokomis, Amanda Bauman, orchestra. At McIntosh, Brianna Blunt, chorus and orchestra. At Pineview, Kathy Shepler, elementary music. At Sarasota Middle School, Nadia Sava, chorus. At Toledo Blade Elementary, Teresa Riley, music. At Venice Middle, Ian Ackroyd, band. And also at Venice Middle, Susan Hines, orchestra. And I believe that's all of our teachers. Did I forget anyone? All right, let's give them a big hand. All right, right, now we're going to recognize the true stars of the evening and line them up. In just a moment, we'll have you come take a photo with them, if that's okay. So students, when I call your name, please quickly come forward with your certificate. You can leave all the other papers there at your chair. And come stand up front. Teachers, music teachers, if a few of you can help us line them up, that would be great. And as hard as it is, please hold your applause, parents, until we get everyone lined up. And when you're finished with your picture, go right back to your seat, okay? All right, we've got this. Here are our incredibly talented all-state music students. Isabella Alberti, Sarasota Middle School treble chorus. Mia Alburn, Middle School Treble Chorus, Sarasota Middle School. Sitar Ben Harut, Middle School Mixed Chorus, Sarasota Middle School. Isabella Bernal, Elementary Chorus, Toledo Blade Elementary School. Jonathan Bruxon, Symphonic 11th-12th Grade Band, Riverview High School. Daphne Shergel, Middle School Mixed Chorus, Sarasota Middle School. Ariana Connolly, Elementary Chorus, Ashton Elementary. Cassidy Davis, Senior High SSAA Chorus, Imagine School at Northport. Janelle DeLisis, 7th and 8th Grade Honor Band, Imagine School at Northport. Elizabeth DeRozier, Middle School Treble Chorus, Imagine School at Northport. Ava Donovan, Orff Ensemble, Ashton Elementary. Bradley Eisenhower, High School Honor Band, Imagine School at Northport. Alex Garcia, Symphonic 11th and 12th Grade Band, Riverview High. Isabella Garland, Senior High SSAA Chorus, Riverview High. Jacqueline Gibson, Middle School Treble Chorus, Sarasota Middle School. Jacob Harvey, High School Mixed Chorus, Riverview High. Faith Henry, 7th and 8th Grade Honor Band, Venice Middle School. Donna Jarrett, High School Mixed Chorus, Riverview High. Andrash Karpathy, 7th and 8th Grade Honor Band, Brookside Middle School. Noah Kunkel, Concert 9th and 10th Grade Band, Pineview School. Ian Larson, 7th and 8th Grade Honors Orchestra, Venice Middle School. Andrew Malay, Orff Ensemble, Ashton Elementary. Grace Malay, Elementary Chorus, Pineview School. Elizabeth Mops, 7th and 8th Grade Honors Orchestra, Laurel Nokomis. Cooper Oriel, Middle School Mixed Chorus, Brookside Middle School. Juliet Pauling, Elementary Chorus, Pineview School. Addison Pinella, Middle School Treble Chorus, Sarasota Middle School. Emmeline Quisenberry, 7th and 8th Grade Honors Orchestra, McIntosh Middle School. Amari Shearer Dogense, Middle School Treble Chorus, Pineview School. Catherine Schmitz, Middle School Mixed Chorus, Brookside Middle School. Gemma Slipback, Elementary Chorus, Pineview School. Jaden Smith, High School Mixed Chorus, Riverview High School. Thomas Ty, Senior High TTBB Chorus, Riverview High. Rachel Toole, High School Mixed Chorus, Riverview High. Did I get everyone that's there? Let's give these amazing students a big hand. Thank you for joining us.
Now everyone's going to have to stand out on 41 to get this picture.
That's right.
Make sure we can see you, okay?
We will share this photo with your teachers, so if you don't get a spot at the paparazzi place there, we'll...
No, I'm trying to get next to Elizabeth. Trying to embarrass her. Yes. Yeah, Robert, you're going next to Elizabeth.
If we could let our district photographer go ahead and get in there. We'll be here a really long time. Because I promise I'll share pictures.
All right, everybody look at me. 1,
You guys are good. Well, walking when I was standing over there and I realized I got Thank you.
Do we have any comments, Mrs. Zucker?
I'm the first one that got to turn this mic on. I would just like to say that I'm so happy and proud to be part of this wonderful arts community. It's been a dream of mine since 1992, when we almost lost the arts in all of our schools. And it was a fight since then to make sure that arts stayed alive and increased over the years. And I believe we've done that. It took us a while to get started, but once we did, there was no stopping Sarasota County arts. We're in every school now, and I'm so proud of all of you, because we all know that art is not only for your enjoyment, but also to exercise your brain. I mean, it forms those synapses and that grow and help you to be better learners and better students and better at math. So I thank you all for participating in the arts, and congratulations to you and your parents and our teachers as well, because without all of them, you all wouldn't be here. So thank you, everyone.
Mrs. Brown.
Yes, I'd like to echo what Ms. Zucker said, too. You know, congratulations to all of you kids. I hope you continue on these studies and let music help carry you through school and beyond. And to the parents for their support, and also to our teachers. I mean, it's Teacher Appreciation Week, and we truly appreciate these teachers. But we've got a partner next door that also is appreciating teachers this today, and that's PDQ. If you haven't eaten dinner yet, show your teacher badge, and you can get half off your dinner meal tonight. I'm just saying. I doubt that you've had dinner yet.
Just mentioned by a shopper, a real shopper.
Yes. I love those deals, but truly, we thank all of our teachers, too, and our parents, and thank you for coming tonight.
Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, thank you guys very much, especially just from a selfish point of view. If you guys do better in music, you guys do better in school, you do better in math, and then you guys make us all look good. So, and it ain't easy making me look good, right, Miss Goodwin? So I really do appreciate you doing that. And I also know that, you know, a lot of you guys are athletes like Elizabeth Mops. I told you I was going to embarrass you. She's a triple threat, good in school, all-state orchestra, and a wonderful volleyball player. So thank you guys very much.
Mrs. Ziegler.
I'll be brief because I feel like I say this every year, but music played a significant, and still does to this day, plays a significant role in my life, and I hope that that's the same for all of you. I think you guys have started on a great foundation. I think it can really change lives, and I want to congratulate each of you and keep up the great work.
Wow. Well, I want to say that you all are rock stars, because I happen to have been a former musician of sorts in my life. I've talked to Ms. Tracy about helping me with the ukulele this summer. But I know what it's like to be in and try out for All-State Band. It's a big deal. You're the best of the best in the state, and serving on the Music Education Board statewide, I understand the importance of what you've done, and you are all stars. You have all done a great deal of body of work in order to be chosen in the All-State family. So I want to thank you and say job well done. Keep it up. Keep working hard this summer, and thank you for being here, and we really appreciate all that you're doing in the arts and in academics, so thank you.
Do students and families, if you want to quiet me back. Okay, please bring all your papers.
First one to PDQ gets 75% off.
Give everybody just a minute to get out of the audience that's leaving. I know they have finals and things to do this week. Okay. Our next presentation is for Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week, which we are well aware happens to be this week. I'd like to invite Dr. Carol Brown, Director of Leadership, to come forward. Dr. Brown.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent, Mr. Hardy, and Student Representative Tay Peterson. We are here tonight to honor teachers. The greatest institution for social change is a school, and the greatest instrument of change is a teacher. It is the teacher who identifies a spark in a child and turns the spark into a fire. Teachers make a difference and serve selflessly. Their compassion, empathy, kindness, and caring are life-changing. A teacher's partnership, congeniality, collaboration, input, voice, and perspective are qualities that are never taken for granted. Sarasota County teachers have been and continue to be an epitome of strength and a great pillar of support to us all. Our respect and admiration for you as a teacher cannot be expressed in words. You make an impact on lives of every student in your class, and those students will remember you for many years to come. Thank you for being the positive change in their lives. Thank you for challenging our kids to think further, work harder, and dream bigger. As you embark on another week of learning, growing, developing, teaching, and guiding, please know how deeply fortunate we all are to be able to call you a colleague, teacher, educator, collaborator, contributor, and a friend. Sarasota County Schools salutes all of our teachers for their passion, dedication, commitment, and contributions. The pictures displayed tonight were submitted by administrators in recognition of Teacher and Staff Appreciation Month. We would like to acknowledge Teacher of the Year nominees Tessa Haley and Ashley Middleton, and Teacher of the Year Shane Swayze. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to celebrate the amazing and talented teachers of Sarasota County Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. And our last presentation, I'd like to call forward Mr. Steve Canties, the Executive Director of Middle and High Schools, to introduce and make this presentation. Mr. Canties.
So good evening, everybody. Board Chair Goodwin, Superintendent Bowden, board members, Mr. Hardy, and our student representative. Certainly is a week that we celebrate our educators and our school district. We always have the opportunity to hire the best in Sarasota County, and we work really hard towards doing that. We hire great teachers, we hire great instructional support staff, we hire wonderful secretaries, bookkeepers, great bus drivers, custodians, and food service staff. And in Sarasota County, based on the fact that we have this wonderful school system, we typically can hire really, really good people. So in keeping with this theme of great hires, I have the distinct privilege tonight of introducing the new principal of one of the highest performing middle schools in the state of Florida, Sarasota Middle School. A school full of great teachers, staff, students, and parents. So back in the day, when some of us went to school, principals were typically managers of the school. but today they have to be so much more. They can't just be a manager of the school. They have to be an instructional leader. They have to be great at building relationships. They have to be fair. They have to be consistent, organized, and prepared. They have to be an excellent listener. They have to be a visionary. And they have to, most of all, they have to be inspirational. They have to inspire those around them to achieve at their highest level. So, our new principal at Sarasota Middle School, she has all these talents and more. Lori, would you come up, please? I want to introduce to you tonight the next principal at Sarasota Middle School, Dr. Lori Breslin. Lori is a graduate of the University of Florida. So here we go. There you go. Her husband Todd's here with her tonight, and he's a graduate of Florida State. Apparently, if your name's Todd, you have to graduate from Florida State in this.
He married up.
He married up. Okay. All right. So I'm sure it makes for some interesting Saturdays in the Breslin household. They have 4 sons. Yes, I said 4 sons. Tyler, Colin, Caden, and William. So Lori and Todd, when I asked Lori, I said, so what do you do for entertainment? What is it you do in your downtime? She said, we follow our 4 sons around at ball fields and on the marching band field. So prior to serving as the acting principal at Sarasota Middle School this year, she stepped in for us in a difficult situation, and she did an amazing job. But Lori worked as assistant principal of curriculum at Booker High School. She worked under Dr. Rachel Shelley. Some of us know Dr. Shelley, right? So prior to that, she worked in Manatee County as a teacher and administrator. She taught at Manatee High School. She was an assistant principal at Manatee High School. She was an assistant principal at Palmetto High School. She has a proven track record as an instructional leader. She is inspirational. Lori is that inspirational leader that I spoke of before, and I present to you the new principal at Sarasota Middle School, Dr. Lori Breslin.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just excited to be here. I just want to say a few words of thanks to those that I really have to credit for giving me the skills to be where I am today. So members of the board, Dr. Bowden, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity. I'll continue to support students and teachers, and we'll continue to raise expectations and meet those expectations. I just want to share quickly a quote I read just yesterday from Sandra Day O'Connor, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but she spoke of our lives being a tapestry, and that tapestry is made from all our interactions, and everyone helps weave the tapestry. And so in thinking of that, and those who helped me get here, of course, my husband, who is the best friend I could ask for. So he's very instrumental to the support I have in order to be able to do what we do leading a school. All the mentors along the way, including my parents, who taught me hard work, that it's necessary to react with kindness and do the best thing in order to really have a complete life. Of course, Mr. Cantis, Laura Kingsley, Harriet Moore, Rachel Shelley, some of those that I just know I can reach out to at any time to get what I need. Working under Rachel Shelley, I'd been an administrator for many years before I worked under Dr. Shelley, and she taught me to raise those expectations further than I thought I could. She really stretched me, and I appreciate her so much and for what she instilled with me in Booker High School. It's a remarkable school. And of course, Tay, I remember you there as a student, and it's a pleasure to see you tonight as well. And then finally, as we celebrate teachers this week, I've been in education for over 16 years, and I've worked with just brilliant minds and teachers and staff, and so I'm so thankful for the way they shape me. We support them, they support us, and it really is a true collaboration. So I'm so thankful for the teachers. When I walked into Sarasota Middle School this fall, I wasn't sure, what I was going to walk into, and I walked into a vibrant learning environment. I mean, you could see the students and the teachers just excelling and thriving, and so we're going to continue moving that forward and continue that drive towards success. When I look at students, I'll think of their own tapestry that we're weaving. We're getting ready to celebrate our 8th graders as they move on to the high schools in our community, and I'm just happy to be a part of that. So thank you again for this opportunity. I appreciate it much.
You want to could we come up and take a picture with
Yes.
Dr. Breslin?
Okay.
Yep, okay.
We heard that.
No. We got to stick together. We're outnumbered. Exactly.
All right. Ready? 1, 2. One more. 1, 2, 3. That's
She was at C-SPA last night because her nominee for their award got picked.
I was going to stop there.
Looking down on me.
That's right.
Little boy.
And next, we have our superintendent's report.
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Bowden?
Canceling my request this
The governor has issued a proclamation in support of School Nurses Day, which falls during this week. If I may, I'd like to invite Susie DeBose up to the podium to read that proclamation for us. Oh, and she has a friend from the county health department.
I won't take President Brack. Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Bowden, Mr. Hardy, and Student Representative Peterson, thank you for the opportunity to recognize the importance of licensed school nurses in promoting and protecting the health and safety of our students. Joining me today is Karen McCormick. She is the Department of Health Supervisor on the school health side of the team. As you know, we're half district, half DOH, very solid and wonderful team. And so we are happy to be recognizing not only teachers this week, but our school nurses. So without further ado, whereas children are the future, and by investing in them today, we are ensuring a healthier tomorrow, and whereas Florida's 2.8 million students in 3,706 schools need to have their health needs safely met while in the school setting, and whereas during the 17-18 school year, there were 763,588 reported student health conditions in Florida schools, some of them requiring complex procedures and life-saving care during the school day. And whereas school nurses are licensed professionals who not only manage the day-to-day health and safety of students at school, but also serve as gatekeepers to promote student access to health in their communities. And whereas professional school nurses provide services that range from vision and hearing screenings to complex medical procedures, medication administration, sick care, first aid, and prevention of communicable diseases. And whereas professional school nurses are uniquely positioned to reduce health barriers to learning, which helps Florida students graduate and become self-supporting adults. And whereas Florida School Nurse Day provides a special opportunity to commend all of Florida school nurses for their professionalism, their dedication, and it encourages Floridians to learn more about the work of the licensed school nurses who care for our children. Therefore, Governor Ron DeSantis, Governor of the state of Florida, hereby extends greetings and best wishes to all observing May 8th, tomorrow, as Florida School Nurse Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to give the board an update on School Avenue. Last night was a pretty monumental night for us. The city of Sarasota held a public hearing on an ordinance that would permanently close School Ave and vacate it, therefore creating a continuous campus at Sarasota High School, something that I think we all have a vested interest in, not just from a safety and security perspective, but from the culture of Sarasota High School. And so last night, by a vote of 4-1, the Sarasota City Commission advised voted to advance that. There are a number of items that will make their way to your agenda, not just this evening, but there are other interlocal agreements that take place in which we make various covenants to each other. They will go back to the city, and we anticipate a final vote by the City Commission late June, early July. And so we're excited that the end is in sight, which will give us control of School Ave through the heart of Sarasota High School, and then give us the ability to permanently close that campus and create an environment that those students at Sarasota High School so justly deserve. And so I want a special shout out to our operations and planning folks. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes. To our legal team, I wouldn't even care to count how many drafts went back and forth between city and district staff. And so last night was a really good night for our kids at Sarasota High School, and we look forward to the final vote end of June, early July. So.
Well, I watched the event because I have no life, so I tuned into Channel 19, and I want to compliment you and the team because I saw Art there and Jeff and all of the others on the team. Kathy Ebaugh has done a stellar job for the last couple of years on this issue, but I want to compliment you, Dr. Bowden, because I thought you really I had several calls today from people who thought you did a particularly great job and that the team did a great job, too. I really didn't think it was going to pass or even be voted on last night. I thought it would be the next meeting, perhaps, but and I really, speculated that it wouldn't be 4-1. So I want to say congratulations because I thought it was a really, really good event. Mrs. Ziegler?
I too. I know this has been a long-term conversation, so I want to, first start off and say thank you to the City Commission for seeing this through. I know I just told our attorney that I don't want to count our chickens before they've hatched, but I know we're moving in the right direction. And compliment staff on both Sarasota County Schools staff and the City Commission staff, because as I recall last year, the number of drafts that you referenced, there's a lot of work, and it really is in the best interest of the culture of the school, but of the safety. So I'm very excited to see this move forward and applaud everyone for their work. Thank you very, very much.
Mrs. Zucker?
I'd also like to give a shout out to Scott Limpy, because Scott kept it going. We've been trying to do this for 20 years, and it was Scott's fortitude and just wouldn't give up. And he kept it going before anybody else was on board. So Scott Limpy, if you're watching, and I know you do, thank you very much for your input.
Great. At this point, I would like to call Mitzi Corcoran to the podium. At our last workshop, we put a pretty aggressive timeline in place in regards to the selection and employment of an internal auditor. I know she has sent materials out to each one of you, but you have not had a chance to speak with each other. So wanted to give an opportunity for Mitzi to give some opening comments, for the board to provide much needed input and direction as to where we're headed with the internal auditor position as mandated by state law. Mitzi, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So last Friday or Thursday, I can't remember exactly which day it was, I sent you an email with a cover memo and basically two options. I'm now here after having a conversation with our current auditor with option 3. So Mr. Robinson had expressed some concerns regarding the ability for our current external auditor to remain independent. So I had a conversation with John Gilberto, who is the partner with the current CPA firm that we have hired, and he too has expressed some concerns when it comes to the risk assessment component. Again, if they're going to come in, they're going to do an assessment of the entire district, determine those areas that they believe to be at risk, kind of a stoplight, if you will, report of red light, green light, yellow light, and then be tasked then to go back and audit those items and do a performance item. It would give, even though they could remain independent, it would give the appearance that the independence could be compromised. So I can appreciate that. But what he did say is that as a result of whatever comes out of the risk assessment, they are more than capable of performing and doing the performance audit work, any audit work that would be related to the results of a risk assessment. So his suggestion would be for us to contract with another external provider, a CPA firm, that would come in and perform the risk assessment component, which is the required component of the House Bill 1279. From that report, the items that the school board would want to engage in to do further analysis and audits on, they would be more than willing to perform those duties. So it would be my recommendation to you that we would go forth and find another auditor. The risk assessment, in his opinion, would be under $50,000. So now you're below the threshold for competitive solicitation. You could procure those services prior to June 30th and be in compliance with the law, and then still utilize the firm that you have already contracted with to perform audit services. So that's kind of where this is at, but it's totally within your purview. You have received a draft RFP. The timeline of that gets it to the board for approval aggressively. The timeline would reach you August 6th for approval. There are still some concerns, particularly from Carol's perspective, on the fine line we have to draw between procuring, you guys have to meet in the sunshine, but procurement of competitive services when you're doing solicitations and presentations being done outside of the sunshine. So we would have to look to Art to help us figure a way to navigate through that process if we were to go forward with an RFP for another firm. But again, that would only be if you would expect to spend more than $50,000 on that firm. I think that's pretty much it.
Mrs. Brown.
I would like to just go ahead and use the firm we have, and then just for those items that they can't look at that would be under the $50,000 that we wouldn't have to do the RFP for, and you know, they know us, and you know, I think it would be just easier to go forward with that. I don't know what other board members feel.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you, Mitzi. I know it's kind of a challenging situation because it's really the board we're hiring, and the purpose of an internal audit is to oversee and look into from the management side, from the administration side. So I appreciate you walking us through this, but it's also a delicate situation. So nothing I say is directed at you necessarily. So I'm disappointed for a couple of reasons, because I think this is a really good opportunity. Not only is it law, but before it was law, was something I wanted to see our district entertain and bring forward, because I do believe it is a best practice when you have an enterprise the size of our organization. And there's a number of efficiencies, and like we've said before, it's not exclusively financial. And it just allows a different perspective to go in and look and see how we can do things better. If not, I mean, that's the overall goal. When this was passed, I know I had reached out to, I think I had included everyone on the email, was just from a timeline perspective, I want to say was late January, early February, to say we need to get this going because we have that July 1st deadline, and there are circumstances that we need to get in place. Not only is it whether it's an RFP, but also, as we discussed at the last workshop, which was in April, I'm trying to figure out, I remember my months now, putting together the proper way to do it so we wouldn't be running into the procurement issue per se, from the sunshine standpoint and competitive selection. So having a committee do that, so that is typically another best practice when you entertain this. I was concerned with the external auditor doing the internal audit function, especially when they listed out, when I read what you had shared with us, listed out the limitations of what they could do, because a lot of those are things that I would expect us to potentially want our internal auditor to in fact do. So there's nothing to say about our particular external auditor. I think they're a great firm. I know we've worked with them for a long time, but I would much rather see us go through the process of an independent internal auditor as planned versus fast tracking it and in kind of where I feel like we feel like that we're backed into a corner where we don't want to be out of compliance by July 1st, so we're just going to use someone we already have. I feel like we're going about it the wrong way. I had called I'd asked council as far as the competitive selection, because there are other school districts that have done a selection of their internal auditor, but again, it's always done in a committee standpoint, where they have had, but it was done in the sunshine. I think there was one example where there were 2 board members at that time being part of the selection process, so it was open, obviously an open meeting, it would be required to, and it was noticed. So did you, if I may direct a question at the council as to what you found out as it relates to that?
Well, as is frequently the case when the legislature either creates or amends one statute, there are sometimes other statutes that are implicated, perhaps without anyone recognizing that. And I think that's probably the case here. The statute requires that there be a board member on the selection committee. It does not require more than one, nor does it prohibit more than one. Assuming there's more than one, for example, if the board were going to be the committee, or two or more members, then you've got a situation where there is a conflict between a portion of the Sunshine Law, and in this case, it's actually an exemption from the Sunshine Law, saying, and that's in 286.0113, that talks about certain competitive solicitation meetings being done out of the sunshine. For example, when firms or individuals are coming in and making presentations. So typically, you're allowed to do that. The committee that's evaluating does that out of the sunshine. And presumably, that's so that one company does not have a competitive advantage over another by having sitting there and watching, or sending someone in to sit and watch. That has to be contrasted with the statute about the auditing process. And that's section, this is one I'm not usually looking at, 218.391. And that's been in the statutes for a while, but then it was also recently amended. That requires, the amendment is what requires at least one of you to sit on that committee. And the statute as amended, 218.391(2D, now says, quote, the public may not be excluded from proceedings under this section. So on one hand, we have the more general Sunshine Law exemption saying, in essence, you can exclude the public from portions of meetings. And then you have the more specific statute about the auditors that says very clearly the public may not be excluded. My best guess is that nobody really thought about that when the audit statute was being amended. I don't know that, but that's just my guess, because I would have thought it would have been referenced some way to tell us what the answer was. So here's my best advice to you on what that means. Typically, in a statutory construction situation where you're looking at 2 statutes and trying to reconcile what appears to be a difference between them, one of the rules of statutory construction is that the more specific governs over the more general. I think that would apply in this case, so that the more specific statute is the one that's specifically talking about referencing or hiring a auditor, because that's about one circumstance, as opposed to the Sunshine Law, which the exemption is to any competitive selection. So I'm unaware of any law on that. I have tried to touch base with some of my colleagues around the state, and the most I've gotten back was, yeah, that sounds right to me, what I suggested, the specific and the general. So I can't give you a definitive answer, as frustrating as that may be for all of us. Certainly, there is less risk to acting in the sunshine as opposed to acting outside of the sunshine. On the other hand, that could lead to a situation where someone does have a competitive advantage or disadvantage. And that's what the whole statutory exemption is designed, I'm quite sure, to prevent. But that's the best I can offer to you. I am not aware that this has been resolved anywhere.
Thank you, because that was very exhaustive but beneficial. So I know that was raised as one of the concerns. There were a couple in your memo that were concerns. In short or long, however you want to say, I would like us to continue with an RFP, and if that requires us to have additional meetings in the short time, because I believe we knew this was coming. I don't think we planned properly, quite frankly, for it. I think it's going to be incredibly valuable to the district. And if we need to come up with terms where we have parameters similar to what we discussed at the workshop and direct the chair accordingly by a vote, I would like us to go that direction. I think that's in the best interest of the district. I think it's the intent of the bill, and I think it's the best use of money, quite frankly. So that's my position.
Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, I had a concern about impairing independence that Mitzi and I talked about, and so the partner sent you a memo.
That was before. Before I sent your memo, I had received that.
Yeah, you had received a memo, and that's what I'm going to read from an email. He states some of the things that they cannot do.
Would you like a copy of that in regular font so you don't have to read your phone?
Yeah, can I? I mean, I was like looking for while people were looking, I was not texting anybody. I was looking at my phone. I'm not going to find. So here's some of the things that they said that they would not be able to do. Reporting to those charged with governance on behalf of management. Deciding which of the audit organizations or outside third-party recommendations to implement. Accepting responsibility for the management of the audited entity's projects. Accepting responsibility for designing, implementing, or maintaining internal controls. Providing services intended to be as management primary basis for making decisions that are significant to the subject matter of the engagement. These are things that if we hire Cherry Bechtold, they would not be able to do. Develop the audited entity's performance measurement system when that system is material significant to the subject matter of the engagement. So I'm thinking back to one of the things that we said, the first thing we're going to have the internal auditor do, which was look at the AG's findings about the construction. And so I envisioned the internal auditor going in there, finding out is it material or not, finding out what the issues were, and then making sure that we have a system in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again, or that we don't get another finding in that situation. And I don't feel comfortable that they're going to be able to do that, because I'm going to rely. The board is going to rely upon that internal auditor to come in and say, I looked at this, I tested the internal controls. These are my recommendations for changing the internal controls to make it better. So he's not going to be able to do that. And the reason why he's not going to be able to do that is because they're going to come back as the external auditor, and they may be auditing those particular projects that we asked them to set up and fix the internal controls. And that in and of itself would impair the independence of the external auditor. And that's you're looking at me. Do you understand what I'm saying, Dr. Bowden?
I understand fully, but the limitations that you listed, you would not charge any internal auditor with doing. They don't speak on behalf of management. They don't design controls. They simply issue reports. They don't get into issues of governance. So as you go through that list, I guess what I don't understand is, under which scenario would you ever ask an internal auditor?
So I would ask the internal auditor to set up internal controls to make sure that that system doesn't happen again, so that I hate to use the word failure, but if they're auditing a particular system, I'll take construction out because I don't want to identify a particular issue. So let's say that we identify an issue that we think there's lacking, or there's high failure rate or high stress financially on it or operationally. They come in there, they're going to look at the system, evaluate it, and maybe come to us and say, this is how you can do it more efficiently. This is how you can do it so you have more internal controls. Doing those things is what impairs their independence.
Could you pass that sheet back?
Yes, ma'am. My point is they will in essence be acting as management.
I don't think they would be acting as management.
Well, my professional opinion as a CPA is I believe that they would be acting as management and it would impair their independence.
Mrs. Brown.
I have the same concerns that Dr. Bowden brought up. Why would we be expecting the auditor to accept the responsibility for the management of an entity's project? They can give you the recommendations, but it's not up to the auditor to accept responsibility to make sure they follow through. That's our responsibility. So it's accepting responsibility for designing and implementing or maintaining internal control. They can recommend that we do that, but we can't hold them responsible if we don't. So I'm like, and I guess I was going to direct it to Mitzi. I mean, I would think that anyone that we set this out to would probably come back with the same. I don't want some outside entity coming in and overriding our management. They can make a recommendation, just like who's that group that came in before? But there were some that we said, no, when we look at the whole picture, that you didn't understand there was more to it than that, and it's better the way that we do it. I mean, so to say that we're going to charge with somebody to start taking responsibility and managing our employees, that's not what I expect an internal auditor to do. I mean, so if we're so far apart on what we're expecting them to do, because I think those expectations are unrealistic. So I don't know how you even get to doing an RFP when you've got what I think is unrealistic expectations.
Mr. Robinson?
I understand, but if you ask somebody to review a system and they give you recommendations for the system, whether you take the system recommendations or don't take the recommendations, okay, because you're saying it's our final decision, then you have the external auditor coming back and auditing the very system that they had recommended you. So let's take, for example, you took the recommendation. You don't think the fact that they're auditing a system that they recommended that you do, you don't think that would impair their independence in being able to evaluate the risk assessment of those internal controls? I would think that they would. And now, if you didn't take the recommendation, because it's binary, you either take the recommendations or don't take the recommendation, now you don't take the recommendation, and they already see a failure rate in that particular system, which we don't believe that there is, then how do you think that their external auditor is going to evaluate that system when they go in to evaluate that system's internal control and risk when we didn't take their recommendations? Guess where they're going to find a finding at? They're going to find a finding at the very system that you refused to take the recommendation. So the fact that we get to make the recommendation or not take the recommendation still impedes their ability to be independent in the audit.
Mitzi? Do you have some?
Well, that would be why you would have someone else prepare your risk assessment. That is where you're making the recommendations or where you see potential failures or where you see potential issues. Then you would hire your internal auditor to do performance audits. They are going to attest. Doing any attestation, you must remain independent. So they would do an attestation and report their findings to you.
Not all attestations have to be dependent.
Well, okay. But in my opinion, they would come in and be independent. It's the risk assessment piece that they feel would provide the appearance of the loss of independence, and they would not want to do that.
Again, I didn't say loss of independence. I said impaired independence.
Okay.
Mrs. Zucker?
I'm perfectly comfortable with what your recommendation was. I read everything that you've sent to us, and I really am fine with what you're suggesting, but as long as we hire an internal auditor, as you talked about, as long as we hire that other firm, and it's because And it has nothing to do with being on time. It has to do with what seems logical to me. And that seems logical to me, what it is that you're presenting. And I also have faith in you and our team that if something is seen as not being correct and you're asked to change it, yet you will. I mean, I don't think that you will disregard anything that somebody tells you that's incorrect. So I tend to rely on staff, to be honest, and to be trustworthy. And so far, I've always found that to be. So therefore, I agree with your recommendation.
Dr. Bowden.
I don't want to get accused of splitting hairs here, but I just want to make sure that we're very clear for the record that Ms. Corcoran has advanced to you another option, but has made no recommendation.
Okay.
Is that
That's okay.
this is in her opinion, is a viable option, as is the issuance of an RFP. But neither Ms. Corcoran or I will be making a recommendation out of respect for this as a board level decision.
Mrs. Zucker.
Okay. So
Of
therefore,
actually saying recommendation earlier, so I apologize.
so therefore,
Can't make a recommendation.
Whereas.
So therefore, I accept your previous recommendation and with your changes that you made just now.
She's not making a recommendation.
No, the
Option
first one
3.
she did.
Okay. I would like to see us workshop this again. I'd like to see us spend some time at our next workshop discussing this again. I've got some questions for Carol, and I've got some questions for Mitzi after listening tonight. So I think we bring this up and discuss it again at our next workshop. We have time to do that based on the schedule that we had discussed earlier, correct?
Yeah, I mean, as it is now, you're looking at
Well,
August
let's
for an approval
put it
date,
on our
so-
next workshop.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is that all right?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Is that okay with you,
I appreciate that.
Mrs. Brown?
Do we have the time for it? I thought we had to
Yes, we do.
have
No, we
put the
had for it.
RFP out.
Well, it would mean that the RFP would not come back to the board until August for approval. But we're looking at August already, even
You're already
if we
looking
got
at
task
August. All right.
approval to do it tomorrow. So
Okay.
We need to get this right.
another couple of weeks won't hurt.
All right. Mrs. Zucker, do you have more comments?
No, I'm good.
Wonderful. Dr. Bowden, anything else?
Yes, just two remaining items. Some data came to the public's attention regarding workers' comp, specific to claims regarding injuries of our staff inflicted by students. I will tell you that on its face, that data is very concerning. If you believe in data, as I do, you don't allow the source of the data or the way the data came to your attention to skew the fact that the data in and of itself is concerning. And so as I look at that workers' comp data, I believe it requires us to act. As such, we have reached out to SCTA. I have charged Laura Kingsley to get a work group together. I've asked SCTA to provide membership to that committee, and I think we need to take a deep dive into that data. I think we need to be very open-minded and let that data take us wherever it might. Time is of the essence. We are deep in planning for the next school year. I do believe that there are implications for teacher training. I think there's implications for the way that we schedule our students. So I've asked Dr. Kingsley to work expeditiously and have recommendations on my desk by the 1st of July so that there's plenty of time for those to be implemented for the 1920 school year. So I just wanted to let you know that we are acting decisively and allowing that data to take us wherever it might.
Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We spend so much time up here in workshops, and I know it has consumed you for the past year about safety and security of the students. And but I'm sure you would agree, and your previous statement, reflects that we also have a responsibility to the safety and security of our employees. And and I too was very troubled by that, and it impairs. I'm not use the word impair anymore. It impairs our ability to do that when you see numbers like that, and so. It's very concerning to me. So I would like to. I can't wait to hear what recommendations we're going to do. I read the article in the paper. It was rather confusing because it talked about a particular school, but that school existed in 2015, so it really didn't account for the growth. So I'm very interested, and I want to say thank you for your leadership in this, and I look forward to making sure that this number goes down. So thank you.
Mrs. Brown.
Well, as you know, I had a question with you. Well, why didn't we know about this sooner? And my understanding is that overall workers' comp claims are actually down this year over last year.
Significantly, yes.
So that's why it didn't boil up to our attention. But, I would like to say that it is a problem, and we can look at and point and think some issues are out there that are causing these problems. But like you said, get the people together to look at what it is and make suggestions, not just us come and fix it. But I would urge our members across the street that when they see a problem, you can pick up the phone and call us. You don't have to spend your members' money on a full-page ad and make a big deal about it. I mean, it is a big deal, but pick up the phone and call us. We want to work with you. We want to solve the problems that are in the district, just like we're doing with this one. I'm just sorry it's taken so long to come to our attention. I would have liked to have been able to do something during the current year to stem this trend. But hopefully, we can have some answers so that next year our teachers and our aides won't be facing the same situation.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Bringing this back to a very positive, I think this is a good positive topic and discussion based on the action, and I really appreciate that. I know we talked about it, and I mentioned to you, and I also mentioned to the reporter, is risk management being what I do, is it's an indicator, and so we need to look into it to really understand it more. And I recognize from the aggregate workers' comp claims overall from the organization may not have risen to your awareness, but now that we know about it, I really appreciate you swiftly taking action. I think it sends the right message, and the message we all want to take seriously to staff, that we want them to be safe at school and support our teachers or however we can, and other students. So I greatly appreciate it, and I think this is a really positive step forward, so I appreciate it. Good job. Thank you.
Mrs. Zucker.
I think all of us had conversations with you, because I know I did. And I think part of it comes from, as the state changed how we deal with and work with students and how we can restrain them and not restrain them, that has added to the difficulty of caring for some of our students. So I think what we need is more training. I think the teachers need better and more training than what they currently have. And we have to also look at the subs and how many subs do we have, and are those subs trained to deal with the students that they're working with? I mean, I think that's where the problem came from, because I have looked into it. Thank you.
May I move on to another topic?
No.
May I ask you a question?
He had some more stuff.
I have one item remaining before
I know you do, but I wanted to ask you this question before that item.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I know that we had some issues with the cement plant residue dust blowing down Myrtle into Booker High School. Could you give us an update on that, please?
You are really stretching my expertise as your superintendent.
Correct.
I will summarize from a layman's perspective.
That's fine.
The best I can. We employed a specialist in such things, an occupational health specialist, who did a series of tests regarding cement dust that was making its way to Booker High School. That individual came to the conclusion that those environmental factors were within commonly acceptable ranges. As a additional safeguard, because that's really not our wheelhouse, we did take their report to the Sarasota County Health Department so that they could interpret the report and make sure that we were reading it the way we thought was appropriate, and they confirmed the findings.
Thank you. That's perfectly exactly what I wanted you to say.
Cement and cement.
And cement.
That's what I
yes,
was gonna ask
I
you.
don't agree with cement. Mrs. Brown. Yes, Mrs. Brown.
This issue actually came up at lunch today. I was sitting at a table with Vice Mayor Erin Koch, and she said they've got a work group they'd like to be putting together because even though it's safe, it's still messy, and they're hoping that maybe they can work with the county. This was the city working with the county and maybe working with the landowner to put up some trees or some type of a buffer to keep that dust from coming forward. I mentioned somebody's name who happens to be sitting in the back. Yes, you, and suggest that she call you, and I sent a copy of the report to her to look at that. But while we were talking about Myrtle Avenue, she had been talking about Myrtle Avenue. We saw in the news about the train tracks at Myrtle Avenue right by the school there, that the Seminole Railroad says the warning signs aren't working. They are non-functioning, but they have trains that go by there, and they also said the condition of the tracks is in bad shape, so sometimes people will hit their brakes rather quickly on that. So maybe you can talk to the county about what they're doing about that, because that's got to be an unsafe condition for our students coming and going. And I mean, if there's trains that are going by and these kids might be leaving from a game or late night practice or something, and there's a train that's going by with perhaps just a flag guy standing in the dark waving a sign, that's just an unsafe condition, and perhaps you can talk to our county partners and see what they can do, because it isn't in the city, it's in the county. But we want to work together and get that done. That's all I have on Myrtle Avenue, but it was a big issue at lunch today.
There's actually a point out there. It's like the Four Corners out west, at which you can stand, and there's the school board, the city, and the county come together, and a railroad operator. So if you want an exercise in bureaucracy at its finest, we happen to have worked an issue there last summer regarding flooding and the origin of water and going through that. So we're very familiar with that intersection, but it's like Devil's Triangle or something out there.
The county commissioners we need to talk to.
The good news is sidewalks are going in on Myrtle finally after decades of Booker High and then the Robert L. Taylor Center there. Those kids walk that without a sidewalk.
Wonderful.
A sidewalk will be going in soon.
Dr. Bowden, continue, please.
I have one last item, and it's an easy one. Just a reminder that next Tuesday, the 14th at 9 a.m., we will be in executive session in preparation for collective bargaining, which will begin 2 weeks later on the 28th of May. My advice to you on the 14th is to pack a lunch or make arrangements with your board secretary. We are going to be there for quite a while. Yes.
I got something saying it was 2 to 6.
That was initially, but it was changed.
I thought initially it was 9, and then it changed to 2.
It did. It changed from 9 to 2, and now it's back to the whole day. And you have copies there of both agreements.
I'll try to get there as soon as I can. I have a previous arrangement at Garden Elementary I need to go to.
We'll be there when you get done. I don't know what time you get done. I just know we'll still be there.
Okay.
Okay. Did you have something else, Mr. Robinson?
I just was. Good. And I say with great pride, this completes the superintendent's report.
Very, very good. Thank you, Dr. Bowden.
Never had such a long one.
It's been a long day. Okay. We next have the hearing of citizens, and I have one card from Catherine Gerard. Catherine?
Gerard.
Yes, ma'am. Step to the podium there, and the microphone is already on, and you will notice that A green light will come on. You'll have 3 minutes. After 2 minutes is up, the caution light, the yellow light will go on, and when that blinks out, the end of the 3 minutes. And please finish up at 3. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the school board, school administration, and those in attendance. My name is Catherine Gerard, and I've lived and worked in Sarasota and been a taxpayer here for 20 years. I'm here this evening to speak about this full-page ad that appeared in the Sarasota Herald Tribune on April 21st, 2019. In my opinion, this ad is, at the best, misleading, at its worst, deceptive. In my opinion, it's propaganda. After reading the ad, I contacted both the school administration and the SCTA president in an effort to become more informed about the content of the ad. I have more knowledge now, but my knowledge is not complete, nor is it comprehensive, and of that I am certain. However, there are 2 points that I wish to make to the board this evening. The first point is that when it comes to negotiate the upcoming contract with the teachers union, I hope that the board will not succumb to the propaganda aspect of this ad. In my opinion, propaganda should not be the basis for any negotiation. The second message that I would like to deliver is that when I spoke to Ms. Pat Gardner, president of SCTA, I was shocked and dismayed when, to paraphrase, she said to me, "I don't care what you think of the ad." And then she said, "I don't have to talk to you." And then she hung up the phone in my ear. When I called back to be sure I had her name correct, the receptionist asked me my name, and when I gave it, she said, "We don't have to speak with you," and she hung up the phone. My message to the board is that it is a mystery to me how the teachers of Sarasota County can be represented by a person with such an attitude, and how the teachers of Sarasota County can be represented by an individual who seemingly does not think she has a responsibility to speak to and respect the concerns of a taxpayer in Sarasota County. I am one of the people who pays the taxes that pays the salaries of the teachers. Thank you.
That ends our hearing of citizens. We do have some additions and corrections, Dr. Bowden, to the consent agenda, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Item 8, approval of the instructional classified personnel report. An addendum was added after the agenda was made available to the public.
And we have also removed 2 items which will be available on the May 21st agenda, item number 55 and item number 59. The collateral documents were not available and not ready for this board meeting.
Move approval of the consent agenda with the changes as specified.
Second.
Any discussion? Please vote. And the vote passes 5-0. That moves us into new business.
I move that the dual enrollment articulation agreement between the University of South Florida and the School Board of Sarasota County be approved as presented. Item 66, but the number is going to change.
Second.
The first item under new business.
Only an item under new business.
First one.
Okay.
somebody has a button.
I did.
I've got a button. Do you have a button? There's any discussion? I'm sorry, Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you. So I don't know if this is a surprise or not. It won't be to Dr. Bowden, and it won't certainly be to Mr. Cantis, but I have been very involved with a number of families as it pertains to dual enrollment for a number of years, almost since I've been on the board. And while I believe the intent of dual enrollment, I actually happened to be up in Tallahassee and spoke with Dennis Baxley and Kelly Stargell, who are one of the architects of dual enrollment in the state of Florida. And it's to expand access and opportunities. And I will never forget the first graduation, which we have coming up. The first ceremony I went and I just heard about how many students were graduating with their AA and just thinking what a tremendous opportunity that is. I recognize that after last year, I was very disappointed with the change in partnership with SCF and the relationship at that time, because regardless of what led us to that place, is it hurt our students, and it surprised a lot of our students at every high school. I think of Booker High School and having conversations with those families. They don't have the opportunity to travel to the campus all the time. There are a number of different limitations. And so really trying to find a solution has been, I understand, a high priority of both Dr. Bowden's and Mr. Cantis. And so I am very pleased to have USFSM come to the table and offer to fill a void and expand opportunities. I can't focus, I'm sorry. So I have a couple questions before we go forward, but as it pertains right now to this current articulation agreement, would every high school offer, would any student at any of our high schools be able to get an AA as it stands right now?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is it across the board? Can you
Well, let me be clear. They could not earn an associate degree by taking coursework exclusively on their high school campus. It'd still be possible for them to piece together through USF, UF, and SCF the number of credits that would allow them to earn an associate degree. But I believe your question is, could they earn an associate degree in their entirety on their campus? And the answer to that question is no.
were they able to prior to? Has that changed?
The accreditation standard that SCF has relayed to us repeatedly is that no more than half of any program of study could be offered at any location without triggering that as a site of the college, requiring it to be an accredited site. It essentially becomes a branch campus. Mm-hmm. And so it has been quite a number of years that a student has been able to take enough coursework on one of our campuses to earn an associate degree. They've placed that limitation upon us. We have students who earn associate degrees, but it's by taking courses on campus, taking courses online, and then traveling to SCF.
And that's equal across all high schools?
That is correct.
Okay, and I know we have different articulation agreements, so I recognize that.
Yes.
And so my biggest thing is we have, again, my goal, I think our goal, I don't ever want to speak for the board, but I do truly believe we want to all expand opportunities and access. I know you've spoken personally about dual enrollment and the value that it brings. And we also have a diverse set of students with diverse set of needs and abilities. And so my hope is going forward is ensuring that, I know Steve has worked on this for a very long time, and so there's been a lot of discussion about how does this particular agreement come to fruition, and who's making those particular decisions. I mean, if that's the best way I could, summarize those conversations. I know that there has been concerns, and there's a lot of back and forth, and sometimes there's conflicting information from, and this is not specific just to USFSM, but sometimes there's conflicting information coming from the post-secondary institution than what we necessarily are receiving, and there's a lot of back and forth. So what I wanted to take this opportunity for a public standpoint is understand the process of an articulation agreement, how it comes to fruition, and who makes those decisions. with certain parameters. I don't want to use the word limitations, but because if you look at the agreements that other post-secondary institutions that we also are in agreement with, have agreements with, and look at neighboring counties' agreements, there are differences. And so I just want to shed some light or be able to cast a light on where those decisions take place, and who sets those parameters in the events there are, and again, I'm not trying to use limitations or restrictions, but set certain parameters that may be different than an agreement with a post-secondary institution from our neighboring counties.
Well, I would just like to say that, we will have a collegiate school in South County, and then there is one in Manatee, which I'm sure someone in the north part of the county could go to, which has done an excellent job, that would accommodate an AA for students who transfer there at State College. And I'm wondering how many students would take advantage of that. It would be junior students from our regular curriculum. It would not be someone in the IB program, in the ACE program, and at Pineview. And with those situations, which are more specific, I will be interested to see how many will go to State College, because it's a wonderful opportunity for somebody. But it's only juniors this next year, and then they'll bring on seniors the following year, and I guess freshmen and sophomore after that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But again, that's another alternative. As I understand it, the articulation agreement is with the school, and the college really sets the stage as to what articulation agreement they will allow. And
we get a lot of questions over the past 3 or 4 or 5 years. We have really worked hard to increase the number of opportunities for our students to get dual enrollment program. But I think it's important to note that all of our schools have an ACE program or an IB program. Pineview has extensive AP, and many students choose to take AP, IB, or ACE. We know that an IB is a presentation we did a couple years ago. IB and ACE, students that get those diplomas receive 100% tuition in the state of Florida. That's a huge incentive for those students to take those courses. So what happened over time, whereas we would have had many high schools that would have had AP and dual enrollment, now you'll see AP, IB, dual enrollment. So what happened was the number of opportunities for our students increased. That's a really good thing. Students were taking advantage of it. That's a really good thing. But in the process, some of the dual enrollment offerings that may have been offered on campus would have been eliminated just because there were more students wanting to take this option over here. So I would say that's probably one reason why you, Dr. Bowden, you had said that in the last several years, a student has not been able to get an AA diploma on our campus. However, I think it's really important to note, you look at Northport, you look at Venice, you look at Booker, the proximity of SCF to those campuses, and over the years, up until recently, we've had a great relationship with the SCF, and we've had incredible opportunities on our campuses, off campus. So students, Ms. Ziegler, students were able to piece that together pretty easily, and really, I mean, they were super accommodating when we were wanting to do that. So students could go to the campus, either in South County at Venice, or in Bradenton, and they would piecemeal that together for an AA degree, and it was relatively easy. So I think that's one reason you're seeing less dual enrollment options. I also want to go on record as saying, the work that we did with USF, and Superintendent Bowden was extremely involved in that process. He kind of threw out the first pitch on this and got the conversation going. Once the conversation started and we started working on the articulation agreement, it's a different articulation agreement than we had with SCF. The standard's very different. Four-year university like USF has they require a different level, a different standard to get in. So I'm going to let Penny Reedinger and Catherine Kokoza talk to you a little bit about that process, because I think that's a great question. It'd be something for everybody to know. They'll talk about how we develop the articulation and maybe the difference in some of the requirements.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I think we have to remember that the University of South Florida in Tampa does have a dual enrollment agreement with their local high schools. So our campus kind of picked up on their dual enrollment document that was already in place. And then we had some back and forth, I would say, with the man that was designated as the dual enrollment coordinator. And we had some meetings, we had questions, they had questions, but we primarily accepted what they were offering, and remembering that they're becoming a preeminent university, they're all going to be combined. So, of course, they do want their criteria to be a little bit higher, as we would expect from a state university. So that is what we have in place. And we were very happy that they would place classes on our high school campus. That was, of course, what we were really looking for. Back to the AA degree, we still have a program with the SCF, and we call it the Accelerated Dual Enrollment Program. And juniors and seniors can go on the SCF campus full-time. They have a coordinator who knows the high school requirements for graduation, knows the AA requirements. She works very closely with us to make sure that, the students are taken care of. We talk all the time. And so at the end of the day, those students can earn their AA degree. We have some different parameters in place for them, such that if they have an F, we don't hold them back a semester. We let them move forward, try and do some grade forgiveness so that they can still accomplish their AA degree. So we still have that in place. We're happy to have the USF articulation where the courses are on our high school campus. And of course, we have to look at how many students meet the criteria to be in those courses and want to take those courses.
And I do want to point out, too, about that USF articulation agreement. One thing, when we go back and forth, we ask for the sky. We say, we want you to lower your GPA requirements so more of our students can access. We asked for math courses that they didn't originally offer. So we do ask for things in this negotiation. This time around, the one thing that they did accept that wasn't on the table originally was Calc 3 and differential equations, which is a huge deal for Pineview. So we are able to get some things, but it really is at the decision of USF. We put it out there and they say yes or they say no. So there was some give and take. They did give us differential equations and Calc 3, which was a big success. But there are other things they just say no, and some of those reasons we don't always get an explanation because it has to do with their inner workings.
Mrs. Brown?
Well, I too want to thank you for your work on this, and Dr. Bowden for going out there. But, I think, some of the parents that were complaining, didn't quite understand. I mean, we as a school district, we have to do things. We have to be accredited, and I know, our different schools are looked at, and the community colleges, they have accreditation. The state universities do too. And just as Tallahassee has been looking down and asking us to do better, they've been putting on things on the colleges and the universities to make them perform better too. And so when they said that in order to get an AA degree, you have to spend at least half of those hours on our campus, it just wasn't working with some of the classes that we were offering. And you can't offer a class if there's 2 students in it. I mean, we can't afford to put a teacher in for 2 students. I mean, so, we can't be everything for everyone, but we can surely reach out and try. And like I said, get those extra classes if we can get them online or at the college, and reach out for all of these. But I think we've got a lot of opportunity for our kids with the IB and the ACE program and the Pineview and the AP classes that they get. We can still get them college credits. And I think that's a good thing for them to have under their belts. But, there's a part of maturity that we need to get in there too. And it's not just getting that grade. They have to mature to be on that college campus too. So hopefully we can graduate more kids that not only are college ready, but they're already got their leg up and they're performing college level courses already. Thank you.
Great.
Well, I want to say thank you because I know how hard you all have worked on this, but there's some things that parents don't always think about, like your GPA and how many prerequisite courses you have taken that must be taken before some of the courses can be given at the university level. And we've had one student that will remain anonymous who wanted a course at his campus that we weren't offering and didn't really fulfill the requirements for the advanced level courses that he needed to have before he took that course. Although it was in a different discipline, he had to have so many credits, and he didn't have them. And a parent was just very upset that we couldn't make accommodations for one student, and it's not always possible to make accommodations for a single student. So it's a really difficult process, and we say to parents and we say to students, please bear with us. We're doing this as well as we can, but it's sometimes it's a very difficult process to go through.
So, along those lines, just if I could, we have worked really hard, especially these two ladies here.
I know.
I'm a good delegator sometimes, so we work really hard with each student, and every student that comes to us with a challenge with their schedule and a challenge getting a course, we try to be creative and innovative. We don't just say no. We never say no, never. And we try to find options for that student. And sometimes we probably go a little bit too far in how we work hard to get to that point. But we do ultimately try to make things happen because we have some very unique situations with students in our district. We have incredibly talented, accelerated students, and you don't want to hold them back. But when you look at where we were probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, where we are today, and you look at all the opportunities we provide, for the most part, working creatively with parents and working creatively with school administration, we can usually find a solution for each and every option. Sometimes it's not the option they wanted, but most of the time it's an option that is as good or will help them continue to prepare for their schoolwork. I would just, again say that we are really fortunate to have this opportunity with USF. Our local, the State College of Florida is required to have an articulation agreement with us. We still have a good relationship with them. We still have an articulation agreement, but nothing on our campus course-wise through SCF. So then when the University of South Florida stepped up, an incredible university, just a wonderful university, they have worked really closely with us to develop this articulation agreement. They did, I think Catherine made a great point, they did give on some things, and there's other things that they have built into their articulation across all their colleges that they're just not going to give in on, and I understand that. The last thing I'll say, when we talk about input and getting input from our constituents, our students, and our parents, I think we've tried some things over the past few years that really haven't worked as far as that input goes, because it's really coming in too late. So I think what we would like to do, we can present anything. We can say we would like to see A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and they'll say we're not going to give you any of them, we're going to give you these two, whatever that might be. But getting the input much earlier in the process before we write an articulation agreement, and then I don't think it's a good idea to put it out for public comment. I think it's a good idea to seek input ahead of time, whatever ways we have, and we'll take that input forward if it's worth taking forward, and the university would consider that, I believe. So that's kind of moving in the future. We'll probably try to open up some more lines of communication with the input process.
Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, it brings forth the motto. I guess it's. It reminds me of essentially the motto that I think we've adopted, every student every day. And I know that Steve Canties and Dr. Kingsley especially try to make sure that we fulfill the needs. And I agree with what Steve was talking about. We're going to find a solution. It may not be at the right time, right place that you want it to be, but it's going to be offered. And for me, I'm dating myself. For me, dual enrollment was you got in your car and you left campus and you went to for me it's Pensacola Junior College. You went there and you took classes at the local community college. That's where I come from, and that's where the greatest options of classes are going to be at. I mean, USF, they're going to teach they're going to teach more classes at their campus than they're going to teach at Northport High. That's just a fact of life. That it's the economies of scale. So there is a solution for you. And now since we have the articulation group with SEF and USF SM, we have now bookcased the county. We have a campus in the south part of the county, and we have a campus in the north part of the county that you can go to. We also have classes, at your school you can go to. We also have AP classes you can go to. We also have ACE classes where you can go to. We also have IB classes, and we also have general studies. I mean, we're trying to offer as many options as we can, but because we're offering as many options as we can in a particular location, it impacts the choice, because we only have a certain number of teachers, and if these group of teachers are teaching AB, and these teachers are teaching ACE, these teachers are general studies, it only leaves so many teachers left to teach dual enrollment classes. It's just and there's only so many students left to take those classes, and it isn't practical, good stewards of the government funds to have, differential equation with only one kid in it. When you could say, hey, right up the road, there's a differential class with a guy who has a PhD in mathematics who's got 20 other people in the class, so you got to look at those options. And sometimes I've had people actually come to me and said, I know you guys are teaching the CNC 1101, but it's only at 11 o'clock, and my son already has a required course he has to take. Can you also teach it, at 2 o'clock? And it's just like, okay, well, I just want to make sure that people, what I'm trying to say is that I can tell you this much. I know Steve Canties, I know Dr. Kingsley. I know that those two people are trying to do the best they can to make sure that the needs of your children are being met. I swear to God, I know these people, and they're bending over backwards to make sure that happens. And regardless of what level your child's at, they're going to have an option. It may not be at the right time, but it is the option is available. You can get an associate's degree by doing dual enrollment. You may have to go get in your car and drive up to either north or south to go to the class. And guess what? They also have classes at night. They have classes on the weekends. It fits around your schedule. Online. They also have it online.
University of Florida online. I'm surprised you.
And University of Florida. That's right. Home of the Fighting Gators. Yeah. Do we have articulation with Florida State? No, we have to keep our standards high.
We actually talked to somebody today from Florida State University.
No, we need to keep our standards high.
So we're working on it. I don't know. We may need a little help with that one. We're trying to add that one also. It's fine. We got Florida State. But I just want to say thank you, and I just want to make sure that people understand, even if it's not at the right time, right place, right location, right class for you, the options are available. You can take the class that you want. You can get an associate's degree, whether it's going to collegiate school, going on campus, doing it at the actual campus, doing it online, doing it at nights, doing it on weekends, doing IB, doing ACE, doing general studies. I mean, I don't know what options we're missing out, but I can tell you that what you're doing is one of the challenges we face when you have a magnet school with certain criteria that's in place, and when the parents are wanting something that varies from their curriculum, or even in a regular high school, if a student's going through the IB program and they want this other option, it does make it a little bit challenging for us. But again, we typically find a solution for those parents. So,
Mrs. Zucker.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think we try to be everything to everyone, and in most cases we succeed. Mm-hmm. Because I don't believe that we could offer any more classes on subjects in whatever we do. But I'd like to ask you, can a sixth grader take dual enrollment classes?
No. It's involved.
No. If they met the criteria.
If they met the criteria.
See, it isn't
They could meet the criteria.
No.
It would be very difficult, but they could meet the criteria.
Because that's what's coming now. I just received a letter from a parent. Their sixth grader wants to be involved in dual enrollment.
Do they not have to have certain criteria of coursework and GPA?
Yeah. They do. So for instance, they have to have 2 high school English credits, 2 high school math credits, 1 science credit, and a certain GPA and a certain score on a SAT, ACT, or a college entry exam, but with virtual programming. students can get high school credit. Homeschooled students can get, they could potentially do that. Be a little more difficult in our schools to do that, but I guess theoretically they could.
Well, it's coming. The question is coming, so be aware.
Handle that one. So.
But thank you, because for a while there, I really was nervous about dual enrollment and what was going to happen with it until Dr. Bowden started knocking on doors and making sure that we did not lose that dual enrollment. So thank you all for everything that you do.
Okay.
Dr. Bowden.
I just want to recognize the role of our friends to the north when we started knocking on doors and approaching other institutions. We did it arm in arm with Manatee County. When we got a meeting at USF, it was attended by both superintendents, and I think there was incredible power in that we were speaking with one voice. And so from USF's perspective, they knew that they could deal with two counties, which really is their entire service region, that we were together on this issue. And so when you talk about a negotiation, there was a third party at the table. It was USF making offers, not just to us, but to Manatee. But it was a great partnership that we had. So a shout out to Dr. Saunders and her staff as we went through this process also.
Can Manatee County students get an AA degree without going on the campus? Or are they in the same situation that we were?
They have the same agreements that we have that I'm aware of, but they too have a collegiate high school at the Bradenton campus. But they also have the ability to do early admission their junior, senior year. But to take a program entirely on one of their campus, I don't know that they have a collegiate school academy in there. I know there are some schools around the state that have done agreements where the state college did the legwork of saying, okay, we're going to make a certain high school one of our branch campuses and do the accreditation. And so you have, as opposed to them starting a collegiate school on their own campus, they have partnered with school districts and said, all right, let's go into Northport High School and set up our own collegiate school as opposed to the charter route. But I'm not aware that that happens in Manatee County.
And their collegiate school starts at 6th grade.
Right.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Well, first, I want to say, because I know how exhaustively, at least I've spoken more commonly to Steve, to Mr. Cantis, and so I know that you take it seriously, and I appreciate all the work that all of you have done.
I appreciate all the feedback we get.
And I know that you have gone above and beyond to accommodate our, like I say, our uniquely skilled and the incredible unique abilities of a lot of our students here. So I really... Please understand, I greatly appreciate it, and I know that the families that we're working with do as well. But I wanted to cast the light on what that process was, because that seems to often be a discussion. And you mentioned public input and trying to find how that works, because there are differences in the agreements based on different counties. And I think there's a question as how does that come to be? And so, again, I'm certainly voting in favor of this. I want to see those options and opportunities for our students. But as we move forward, and you touched upon this in your discussion, is how can we bring families in? Because at least from my perspective, they have brought forward things, now this is my perspective, brought forward scenarios that perhaps hadn't been thought of, but as mentioned here, we have to be realistic on what we can possibly offer from a capacity and running the organization. I completely understand that, but overall, I want to thank you for a lot of your work, a ton of work, but I do look forward to future conversations maybe before, though, so that you guys aren't running around like a chicken with your head cut off also.
Credit goes right here. These two have worked really hard with USF and spent many hours, and they've done a great job. So
thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
If there is no other comment, and I hope there isn't, we're ready to vote, but I'm afraid that we may have timed ourselves out. But I've been moving my little clicker, so let's all try the voting and see if it works.
All in favor, say aye.
I voted.
You voted and it worked?
Yep.
Abstain.
Okay, so let's vote.
I voted already, but aye.
Okay. Well, it worked.
It worked.
And the vote passes 5-0. Like that very much. Woohoo! Excellent. And next, we're up to announcements and communications. Are there any announcements? Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, first, I just got out of tax season and session just ended, and part of my life of being in session is I end up talking to way too many elected officials than I want to all the time. And so one of the things I talk to whenever I can is I talk to them about, educational funding and how things going up in Tallahassee, and it's almost over. And then, I try and put up stuff about Sarasota. First off, I just want to say that a lot of them mentioned Ms. Ziegler up there fighting for additional funding for the school district. So I just want to thank her too. But unfortunately, we didn't get our Summer Learning Academy. Leadership Summer. We got $100,000 appropriation. We got it appropriated, but it was significantly less than what we had requested. I can say our local delegation, I know that they were very disappointed, and they fought very hard for it. And I talked to other people throughout the state about this issue, and I think that there is good news. I think there are things that we could do to increase our chances next time. They referenced a variety of things, like the resolution that we took, some of our spending habits. I mean, they have a variety of choices. They have 67 counties all coming to them, asking them for money. And so they have to, they have, like they always tell me, we have a finite number of resources and an unlimited amount of need. And so I hope that for next year, when we go back to them, there are some strategies that we can do to work together to increase the probability of us getting, that funding for those summer kids. Because I mean, it really tears my heart out, because they're the ones who are going to get affected to it. And so I think it's worth it to us to try to have a strategic goal to work together to try to increase that funding. Jane Goodwin's the one who first put me on to about Alta Vista and the summer learning loss, and we would expand this to all the Title I schools. And so this really does impact, the neediest people in our school district. And I know Ms. Brown, she helped draft the goals of looking after the people in the lowest quartile, and these are the very people who are served by this summer academy. So hopefully we can work together and maybe and increase our probabilities that we can get some funding for this program for next term. Thank you.
Mrs. Brown.
I was up in Tallahassee and talked to our legislators too, but I didn't hear them complain about the resolution or our spending habits, but maybe they talk differently to you. But one thing we are going to do is Todd and I were at a luncheon on Saturday that the director of K-12 education for the state of Florida was at, and we've invited him down. Chancellor. And he will be coming to Sarasota to not only look at our summer learning academies, but also looking at the pre-K program we had at Gocio. And so, we are taking some strategies to increase our efforts for next year. And, I want to thank our lobbyists for keeping an eye on that too. And but I also want to say that this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and I want to send a shout out not only to our teachers, but all of our employees that work with our kids. Our bus drivers, our lunch people, our aides, and our teachers. We're doing a great job with them, and testing's almost over, and we can all see the end in sight. We've got, less than 2 weeks left to go, and we could put another year behind us, but hang in there a little bit longer, teachers. It's almost over, and thank you for all you do.
Mrs. Zucker.
I just want to ask a question. You mean to tell me that the legislators penalized our most vulnerable students because we passed a resolution? I don't think so.
You're asking me a question?
Yeah, I am.
So what I'm going to say, when I talk to people, our local legislative delegation, Ms. Brown, were working very hard. Who I'm talking about is people who are not from this area, who have to look at a variety of different requests. So they're looking at stuff from Pensacola to Key West to Duval to Fort Myers. And so they are looking at people from throughout the state. And so they have to prioritize and they have to look at everybody's different issues. And so when they're looking at a variety of different people, when you have boards, when we do things that poke the eye of our partners and legislators, it's going to impact our ability to go and ask them for funding. They're looking at a list of people, 67 counties, multiple requests, and so they're having to make their decisions. So, I'm just telling you what I was told by legislators who are chairmen of committees who help shape these issues. You can ignore that. That's fine. I'm just a messenger, and I'm just telling you what the issue is. You can decide not to listen. We can continue on with the path, but I was just trying to give a helpful suggestion.
Mrs. Ziegler.
I wanted to just thank Senator Gruters and Representative Buchanan for being the sponsors, championing that Summer Learning Academy. And I know that there is a lot of awareness of that program, and so look forward to continuing to champion it, as you mentioned, bringing DOE down and looking at that. And then the only other thing I wanted to add, and I'm going to be brief because we're getting late, but was that I went to the Florida Coalition of School Board Members held a security summit on April 19th. I know it's Good Friday, so it was hard, but what came out of it was in Brevard County, and I will, when I get the electronic copies, the superintendent, they did they took all of the recommendations from the MSD School Safety Commission and went through each one with their staff and to look at where they were and whether it was something they were going to kind of guide them where they were going and what they had in place and what they didn't. And so I wanted to share that with the board and the superintendent as just something to look at. I know we've been working very hard and we have taken a lot of those recommendations, but I just thought from a board level, and it would probably rise to the elevate because as security would not be subject necessarily to sunshine because it would show some exposures, but I thought it was a really valuable tool to really give the board a perspective of what the recommendations were, what's the district doing, where are we in that process. So I'll send that over. And I'll tell you, it was really fascinating hearing what all the other districts are doing as it pertains to security, because it's vast, but there's lots of questions as well as other board members wanting to know what others are doing. So I will share that as soon as I get the electronic copy.
Mr. Robinson, do you have another comment? Excellent. I give you a gold star. And Mrs. Brown, you have a short comment.
Just that I heard from Senate President Bill Galvano that he saw the letter to the editor that I wrote thanking them, the Senate, for putting dollars into the budget for schools, and said he was surprised he didn't get more thank yous from school board members and the public for funding schools. And so we're getting different stories on what's going on in Tallahassee, that's all.
Okay, I have a comment. I want to thank, and I said this to him on Twitter, I want to thank Senator Tom Lee for trying to do some things at the last minute in the Senate that I thought were positive for public education because, I'm an advocate for public schools. And we will have our lobbyist here on the 22nd, and we'll chat with them and go over some things. We've got to put a platform together really quickly, so we better start thinking about that. Put your thinking caps on and think of some things that we can do together for next year because session starts January 14th. So with our summer coming and going and then coming back to school, we really need to try to have some type of a plan by the end of June, if we can.
The workshop that Ms. Goodwin is referencing is on the 21st.
Yes. And I was about to say that. The next board work session is Tuesday, May the 21st, 2019. The time has not been discussed, but I think it will be an early time because I think we have a lot of things on our agenda that day. And the next regular board meeting is scheduled Tuesday, May 21st at 3 in the afternoon.
We have a workshop on 22nd.
Mr. Cantis is mouthing the word graduation. So just a reminder, it is graduation season.
Oh, really?
Let the graduations begin.
Next week. Yeah. Next week. Oh, boy.
I will. I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Thank you.